was a rough and tumble start to the Pirelli GT4 America season yesterday in race 1 of 2023 here at Sonoma Raceway. We're ready to go again for race 2 on a cool, crisp morning. The wind is blowing across the track and a huge field of GT4 cars has assembled to do battle once again. Hello, I'm Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish joins me here topside in the broadcast booth, and down on pit lane you'll find Amanda Busick. Fun race yesterday when we got to racing. A few too many incidents, I think, for everybody involved. Hoping for a little bit better here today, Cal. And at the very front of the grid, the return of Matt Travis alongside Jason Hart, the 2021 Pro-Am champions in this car. They didn't miss a beat.
They didn't. Really picked up off where they left in 2021. For Jason Hart, he's gone for 3 consecutive championships. So new season, sometimes there's surprises, but really when you look at it, Nola Sport on top in Pro-Am and Conquest on top in the silver category, to be expected, I think.
It was a great day for Conquest yesterday. They win in silver, but they also won in Am.
That was a great story. Those guys getting their first win. Kakaski there finishing and sealing the deal, so they are very excited.
Yeah, Paolo starting the race, or finishing the race. Custodio Toledo got the ball rolling for them in what was a great finish to the Am class in the race yesterday. So many interesting cars, so many interesting stories. This is the Conquest Silver class entered car, and we saw a stunning debut from Jesse Webb, the Canadian. You can see the name above the door. Mackay Stevens should be starting the race here in race number 2. Jesse started from the front row yesterday and looked right at home, despite the fact it was his first time racing a GT4 car.
Yeah, at one point we had some driver ID issues. We're saying, is it Mackay in the car or Jesse on debut? But just stunning debut, getting the first victory, and he was all business afterwards in his interview with Amanda. He just wanted to focus on today.
This is one of the stories we'll be watching all season long. Random Vandals Racing, the team, the reigning TC class champion from TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School. Kevin Bohm stepping into GTs for the first time in his racing career, and he's got Kenton Cook as his co-driver. That figures to be a really, really good driver pairing.
It really should be. It's a great new team, and that's burst on the scene here the last couple of years, and they've put together a very strong driver pairing. Expect them to get some victories here this year. If not, solid podium results will be their course of business, I think.
That green and white BMW, that's the sister car. Al Carter and Paul Sparta back together once again for a run at the Am Class Championship, and here we are from the front of the grid looking down off into the distance. This just keeps going and going and going. There were 43 cars entered here this weekend. Might have had a few casualties since yesterday, but the engines are fired up, and one of the best grids of GT race cars you will find anywhere is about ready to go.
Yeah, and just the format, 60-minute race, mandatory pit stop in the midway part, so 25 minutes in is when the pit lane will open for that. We got a slight delay on that yesterday because of an incident on the course, but mandatory driver change, no tire changes there. 92 seconds is the time you have to spend on pit lane. 1 second joker this year, so got to be tight on that number.
Credit to these teams. I think there was just one pit lane infraction yesterday, and that shows they came ready to go. It sounds easy, no tire change, no fuel. All you gotta do is swap the drivers. Well, believe it or not, there's a bit more to it, especially when you're doing it under fire, as it were, in race conditions. But these teams were well prepared for the season opener yesterday. We look for more of the same here today. 2 formation laps, and that will be important on a chilly day like it is for the second straight day in Northern California, but blustery. And when we heard GT3 drivers talk about what that can do to their car, the amount of downforce they have, what about these GT4 machines?
Yeah, certainly it'll be affecting them a little bit, and it looks a bit stronger than it was earlier in the morning, so that will be a factor here during the course, so drivers will have to be on their toes, particularly on the early laps before you get full tire temperature. The car's a little bit more sketchy to drive anyway, so all of those things will factor in.
Starting lineup up on the screen, sharing that front row with the Matt Travis, Jason Hart, Porsche, Kai Van Berlo. Very, very strong driver with a great pedigree, racing through the Porsche Pyramid and racing in some prototypes as well. I saw him knife through the field in his stint yesterday. That should be a lot of fun, seeing what he can do from the very front. The overlap of these classes is going to be interesting. In the silver class, you shouldn't have too much of a performance delta between the two drivers. In the Pro-Am, maybe a little bit more so, and the pros start today. So how does that affect the strategy?
Well, I think the strategy is you want to maximize the drive time for the pros. So once you get to that 10-minute window, expect the Pro-Am lineups to stay out there towards the end of that opportunity to get on pit lane, just so they can maybe increase their gaps a little bit. And then it's all about the AMs hanging on. And we tend to see a bit more of a delta in terms of performance between the amateur drivers. There's so many solid pros that can run pretty consistent pace. The AMs, and then dealing with the pressure of being in a podium position or a top 5 or a win maybe. How do they deal with that, and can they get across the line?
Another element to the story, of course, is tire life, because this is an abrasive track, a track that is known for chewing through tires, and there is just the one set to share between the two drivers in this race. Again, no tire change during the pit stop, so the pros got to leave the AM something to fight with late in these races. You got to be cognizant of making sure you're not putting the less experienced driver in the lineup on the back foot right away.
You do, and there are certain drivers who are a bit more selfish than that, and they think about how good do I look. But
Sure.
if you're wanting a result, it's a bit like the setup on a car. If your AM partner can't drive a car that's super edgy, okay, you're going to have to almost detune that car a little bit so you're not quite as quick. But when your AM partner gets in, they have a better car to deal with. Same with the tires. Don't just use them up and leave them nothing left to scramble around with at the end. Be patient, but there's a lot of really savvy pros in this lineup. I'm sure they're going to be doing just that.
This track is a North American Classic, opened in 1968. 12 turns in this configuration, 2.5 miles around this place. But the elevation change really is the story. If that and the tire wear, quite likely. Every time you come here, those are the two things the drivers like to talk to you about.
Yeah, it's a unique track. People love driving here, but it is low grip, and you're just going to have to get used to that. You just dial it back. You just can't force a car through a corner if the grip level isn't there. But nonetheless, I think the elevation change for me was always the big consideration, and getting used to that. Certainly for drivers who are on debut here this weekend, makes it tricky to learn a track and really feel comfortable and confident in where you're placing the car through, particularly that first sector up the hill through turn 2, through turn 3 as well.
It does look like it's a track, though, that has a lot of good flow, one corner into the next.
Once you get it, and once you find that rhythm, it is so much fun. But if you're on the wrong side of that, then it can be pretty intimidating at the same time.
This is a look at the NOLA Sport car that won overall yesterday, overall pole for race 2 today as well, with Jason Hart set to start that machine. Kai Van Berlo will be outside of him. A good qualifying effort from John Jesbray to put Spooge Racing in third. Their shift this year to the Pro-Am class, and John has to carry the load this year. He is the pro in that lineup alongside Kevin Conway. How things have changed in a short amount of time, because when they debuted in the Am class, John was the wide-eyed kid with hardly any racing experience. Kevin was the rock that he was building his racing program upon, and here we are 2 years later, and it's a completely different story.
Yeah, and there was the 999 Henley Motorsports Toyota. I think there's Parker Thompson going to be behind the wheel for the start of this one, so it'll be fun to see what he can do. He's got a stellar pedigree.
Yes.
He's running with the Vassar Sullivan team in some endurance championships in North America as well, so certainly a man on the move with his career.
Reigning Carrera Cup champion, if I'm not mistaken, Parker Thompson, the native of Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Busy program for him this year in sports car racing, making the switch to tin tops after pursuing an IndyCar dream for a while, and certainly deserving of the recognition that he has received in recent years. Lights off on the Toyota GR Supra safety car, official vehicle of SRO America. The field in alignment now. This is 22 rows deep.
Really slow pace lap here. Jason Hart controlling that pace from the pole. Right side of the screen as you look at it there, and the NOLA Sport entry, but watch for Kai Van Berlo. The Dutchman is going to be very up on the wheel, wanting to try and control this race. Expect him to be pretty forceful as they climb the hill there through turn 1.
Hart and Van Berlo, that's the front row, a pair of Caymans. Hart on the left-hand side of the screen. Jesbray and Stevens lining up there in the second row. Then you find Kenton Cook and Andy Lee side by side in the third row, and it is a crawl into the VP Racing acceleration zone, just waiting for the green flag. Jason Hart, now he steps on it, he grabs that lead away, and here comes Jesbray looking to follow him through. He slots up to the inside of Van Berlo, and it looks like he'll take second place away.
Wow, did Jason Hart control that nicely, and he has got the pressure off from that other Porsche, and Jesbray, a brilliant start, as you said, slots that Toyota into second.
2 and 3 wide, climbing the hill, at least further back. No such troubles for the top 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. All sorting it out single file through turn 4 for the first time.
Trying to settle in here, trying to get these Pirellis up to temperature, up to pressure here. Jason Hart has taken off.
Big twitch there from one of the Caymans coming through the shot at the back of the picture. It is still an imbroglio deep in this field. It has not settled down one bit.
Just trying to settle in right now, find the groove side by side there. Little twitch there on the inside as you pinch your hands. That's the 95 machine. Oh.
He looks like he made the move and then maybe coming back to the inside. Just got a glimpse of it. Andy Lee, that's the 511 sponsored Aston Martin with the orange roof. He's looking aggressive here in the early stages.
Yeah, trying to make a move there on Mackay Stevens, who started this race aboard the 34 Conquest Racing Mercedes.
First time into turn 9. The right-left chicane. Passing opportunity there. This is Lee, as mentioned. But in front of him, he's watching a battle break out. The BMW going on the defensive right away. Kenton Cook, Mackay Stevens.
Battle for the silver class lead right now, side by side coming off. Kenton just gives him that inside line. It's going to get super tight right here, particularly on cold tires. It could be a bit sketchy. They control it nicely. Mackay Stevens nosing ahead here as they climb the hill.
Still side by side. Cook throws it in around the outside, and he's able to hang on, but Stevens fights back around the outside. The two give each other just enough racing room. Interested spectator is Andy Lee.
Stevens pushing it side by side. What great racing. Lee's going to take advantage on the exit here on the Mercedes.
Oh yeah. Found a spot and he filled it.
Kai Stevens now just sends it around the outside again, around the cushion. Lee to the inside. That's tight. Big twitch. What a save by Mackay Stevens.
It's going to cost him some momentum, and it might cost him a spot, but that's not a sure thing yet either.
How awesome is this racing right now we're looking at?
GT4 is something else. Big grids, equal cars, great racing.
You could sense that was going to get super tight. Mackay Stevens, what a save there. That was a big moment.
Big lunge just behind. I think that was Borcheller getting past. Being passed, I should say. Might be Shanny actually in the car. Hard to tell.
I think Borcheller should be starting this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Borcheller behind him.
Oh, and a spin. Flying Lizard. It's the 09 that has gone around, and it looks like coming through one of the escape roads was the M-Class Random Vandals car.
Up front. Like Van Berlo is starting to put the pressure on. Let's try and see how this one develops here. Everyone getting pretty feisty. That was a little bit ugly there. The 09 into the side of the other Porsche there.
Misidentified that as Flying Lizard. I think that actually is the Zotz Racing team.
Here, this is the battle for seconds. Hart is well down the road, and now Van Berlo gets to the outside of Jesbray. He's going to force the issue. He will not be happy with the start that he had to this race. He's trying to recover here pretty quickly.
Yep. It's a great start from John Doe. Young man, still light on experience relative to those he's starting around, showing incredible pace. If he can keep up with Kai Van Berlo, that will go a long way to solidifying his confidence for the rest of the year.
Approach there to the carousel, and Berlo really tucks it in nice and tight early on the entry, then kind of diamonds it off, washes out wide, then hits that second apex here.
Behind him, the battle is a fierce one. Kenton Cook still on the defensive. Mackay Stevens still trying to solve that riddle. And Andy Lee very much into the mix as well.
That's not a battle for class though with Lee. Lee's in a Pro-Am interest, 2 silver cars immediately in front of him, but he wants to get by these guys and go chase after Jesbray and Jason Hart potentially.
And don't sleep on Parker Thompson either. He's sitting there, 4th car in the frame.
That's a conundrum when you're battling a car that is not in your class. We can see other class positions up in front of them. That was an awesome half lap of driving that we saw there between these 3 cars we're looking at right now. Kenton Cook, Kai Stevens, and Andy Lee.
3 experienced pros in those cars, showing why they're in this starting segment of race 2 of the weekend. Oh, here's Stevens, took a glimpse.
Yeah, a BMW looks a little bit vulnerable on the straightaways, doesn't it? Look like Kai has a little bit more pace there.
Guys have fallen off the back of the top 3 overall. Jason Hart is actually in the leading car. I know it says Matt Travis, but it will be Hart by regulation who is starting this race in the Pro-Am class as the pro. And he leads Kai Van Berlo and John Jesbray. Then you get to this freight train with Kenton Cook as the engine, but he's pulling along a bunch of freight cars.
Hop there as he kind of pinches the entry there, and he's turning the wheel at the same time, makes the car kind of loosen up and bounce a little bit there on the entry of that corner. Look how tight this is. This is incredible racing here.
Stevens in the slipstream, pops to the outside. You can tell he was late on the brakes, and he's able to carry a lot of momentum around the outside. Can he keep it there, though?
Yeah, Ken's got to send it. Just got to push it in there a little bit deeper than you'd ideally want to execute the corner, but it's all about track position at that stage.
It might open up a chance for Lee to go on the attack instead.
Thompson right there behind the orange Aston Martin, you can see there, and Terry Borschiller in close proximity as well. Andrew Davis in the mix. About some high-class names in sports car racing fighting it out here inside the top 10. Oh, Kenton's in there deep, loses the front end. It's going to get tight off the exit here. Andy Lee to the inside. Mackay Stevens, the meat in the sandwich right there.
I didn't know you could fit 3 cars into that part of the racetrack. Somehow they made it work. Stevens still hanging tough around the outside, but he's going to have to carry that speed around the outside here into turn number 1. He does. Now the track comes back his way. He'll grab that position, and Lee follows him through.
Awesome, awesome respect between these drivers. Fascinating battle, and the 2 Toyotas sit there just watching behind this trio.
Oh, and now Kenton Cook really is a fish out of water. He is struggling at the moment. Here comes Parker Thompson in the Supra, trying to go around the outside, but that opens the door for Borcheller, who barges his way in. They're side by side, a pair of Supras, not for class position here. That's Silver and Am.
Wow, Borcheller managed to get that car turned super late there on the entry of the carousel.
Once again, Cook forced to go defensive into turn 7. This time, though, the opposition is Parker Thompson. Parker not quite able to hang tough around the outside.
He's got his eyes all over the place right now, focused forward on trying to get by the BMW. He's got to be aware where Terry Borcheller is placing that similar Toyota Supra right behind him.
Blue Porsche right behind that trio. That's Jaden Conwright. The car he shares with Anderson Tenodo. Back to the very front, though, Jason Hart in firm control. It was 3.1 seconds the last time around. Not to trip that timing line once again, but Kai Van Berlo on the previous lap was the fastest car on the racetrack. We'll see what that looks like this time. Hart with a 148 flat. We're waiting on Van Berlo. There he is, a 47.7, so he chopped off a couple tenths of a second.
Yeah, it looks like he's 2 or 3 tenths of a second quicker per lap. But Jason is going to be super consistent. You'd have to think with his pace with the 2.8 second lead here. But Kai Van Berlo just didn't get the start he was looking for. Jason Hart just managed that perfectly, got the leap. And Jesbray just slotted inside of this Porsche, and that really made life difficult here for Van Berlo in those opening laps.
Top 3 cars overall are in the Pro-Am class. You can tell if you look up on the timing and scoring pylon on the left-hand side of the screen. any number with a blue number plate. So 47, 7, and 68 there on the left-hand side. They are Pro-Am. The silver background is, as you would expect, the silver class, and the red background is the Am class. So Am leader is Borcheller in the 8th placed overall car that he shares with Nick Shanny. Leader in silver is still Kenton Cook, but that might not be the case for a whole lot longer. Let's keep an eye on this battle, but while we do so, let's hear from Amanda down in the pits.
Well, in watching these battles is definitely conquest racing. You can see everyone kind of hold their breath as the track battles happen here to open up race number 2. Jesse Webb won yesterday alongside Mackay Stevens. You said you had a burger as your winner's meal, but this is different. You will close out this race. Does the approach change?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, now we're in a race. I'm not starting. The field isn't completely bunched up. The goal is obviously to pass as many cars as possible. Right now, I'm not 100% sure. I think we're leading silver, so Mackay's done a great job thus far. I mean, looking at the on-track battles, he's kept it clean. It's been an amazing race thus far.
Well, the way this is going, sounds like Jesse's going to have his hands full here shortly.
Everyone does at that point. That's Pirelli GT4 America racing for you. You can't sit back and relax because there's another 40-plus race cars out there trying to take your spot away.
Battle developing here, so Jesbray there leading this pack right now, 3rd in Pro-Am, 3rd on the road. Then it's Mackay Stevens who leads the silver class. He's got Andy Lee as a buffer back to Kenton Cook, who's the 2nd place runner in silver. But for Mackay Stevens, what he's trying to do is just gap the field as much as he can to create as big a margin for his teammate Jesse Webb, who Amanda just spoke to deal with the second half of this race.
Jesbray came out of the gate like gangbusters, but his pace has dropped. I've been watching his times in the last few laps. He's been down in the 49s. The leaders are running high 47s into the low to mid 48s, so John's definitely struggling for pace. Look at this. I'm not even sure where in the pack we are, but it's great. Not sure they know either, quite frankly. They just know there's a position to be gained or lost.
50 car there right in the middle, I think is Aaron Povolato behind the wheel of that machine, the Schwech Racing car that finished off the season in dynamite fashion last year.
Andrew Davis in front of him in the red and the red Porsche with the white hood.
Tyler McQuarrie aboard the 82 car for Bimmerweld.
Cool to have him here.
Talking about top draw drivers at this level of competition, fighting it out just inside the top 12 cars. So that demonstrates the level of competition here.
That's Conwright. He's going to try to get around Bohm. Or sorry, that would be Cook in the car he shares with Bohm. It looks like he got that job done.
Jade is another very impressive young man. Really made a statement here in North America the last couple of years. An affiliation with the Lamborghini factory there for a little bit. I'm not sure if he still has that in other championships or not, but certainly a man on the move and has got a lot of attention here in recent races.
You're right, he was named Lamborghini Junior last year, and not sure if he still carries that tag or not. Woo! Mac Clark. This is a young man you're going to be hearing a lot about. A Canadian. He won the USF Juniors Championship that last year. He's running at USF 2000 this year. A lot of people believe he could be an IndyCar star in a few years, but getting some sports car racing experience.
You saw that moment there, and it looked like there was going to be contact, and the reason there wasn't is because Kenton Cook gave him a little bit of space on the inside. So even though Kenton's backing up here a little bit in the race, he is smart and savvy enough to recognize those situations. You can't be too aggressive, pinch the corner and get turned around. So that was really smart driving there by Kenton Cook.
15 minutes into this hour-long race. Pit window set to open in about 10 minutes. Schwest. Sorry, that would be Povolato in the car he shares with Schwest. Trying to get out with Mac Clark. It's just up ahead. Those two side by side. Clark to the left-hand side of the screen in the OGH Valkyrie Velocity Porsche. Oh, someone's in deep.
Yeah, that's the STR racing BMW, Chandler Hull behind the wheel.
Chandler will be racing later today in Fanatec GT. He said he's taken this GT4 program on a race-by-race basis. Has some history racing with the ST Racing bunch. This is an affiliate program, STR38.
Car we just saw there, that's Carter Faddock, we believe, behind the wheel, and we apologize for not being totally committed to the driver names. There's some ID issues going on with the system here this weekend, some bugs in the system we will get sorted as this season progresses, so always confident who the starting driver was here today, but nonetheless we're seeing some great battles up and down this field.
Big year for Carter, though, to get the call up to run in GT4 for the Skip Barber Racing School team after 2 strong seasons in TC America, finishing 3rd in the TCA Championship in 21 and 2nd last year. He's sharing that car with Matt Forbush, who has stepped down as a team owner, had run that Forbush Performance team for several years, just focusing on his driving. Seems pretty happy about that decision here in the early going. But we jump back now to John Jesbray, who runs 3rd overall, 10 seconds behind Kai Van Berlo, who is 2nd. And stacked up behind John now, you find Mackay Stevens, Andy Lee, and Terry Borcheller.
Yeah, for Andy Lee, he's going to want Mackay Stevens to go attack John Jesbray so he can then get on the tail of that Toyota, because that is a Pro-Am class position. Terry Borcheller's having a heck of a run, 6th overall, leading AM, and he is trying to build that gap for his teammate Nick Shanny to have something to deal with for the second half of this race.
Matt Clark working on Aaron Povolano. Aaron, a driver who made that transition from single-seaters to sports car racing quite a while ago. Not sure it's a full transition for Mac, but this is certainly something he has to adapt to. And learn a lot in the tire tracks of a driver like Aaron. A couple of Canadians, in fact. And then Chandler Hull, and behind him, Tyler McQuarrie.
Borcheller's pace there.
Yeah.
He's catching this group.
We saw this last year, so if you're new to this, you see the 3 different classes. There's no difference in the car in the classes. The only difference is the FIA driver grading system, which is based on experience and age and some other factors. So, as Terry Borcheller showed us many times, an AM car can run at the front. Here comes Stevens. This is his move. He loves the outside in 7.
That Mercedes is so strong. Mackay behind the wheel in the braking zones here.
Just seems like he can release that brake and just roll up alongside, but can't keep it there to complete the pass, at least not that time.
Jesbray getting super defensive here. That's just going to compress this little group even more. Borcheller's going to be right with them.
42 minutes left. Good battle here. 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th overall. What are you hearing pit side, Amanda?
Well, and one of those watching this battle is Kevin Bohm as he preps to get in the car in the second half of the race. And Kevin, I came over here, you were talking to the team. First, what can you tell us about the BMW? And then what did you learn yesterday that'll help you here today?
Well, I mean, the BMW has been a really great platform, and we have a big steep learning curve since it's a brand new car, but we're getting a pretty good handle on it now, and I think today's weather conditions are kind of got the grip of the track a little bit low, so we're kind of playing the long game a little bit and really trying to have some tire left at the end of the race, but in the end, that's kind of the game of strategy. You have to play a little bit, but I think we're in a good spot.
Cal, when you hear Kevin say that, is that Kenton's effort to help out Kevin as he gets up to terms with this BMW?
Certainly seems to be, Amanda. We talked about it in terms of compromising how much you're using those tires up in the first half of this race. So you can do a pressure adjustment. You can't change tires by the rules during that mandatory pit stop unless you have an emergency and a damaged tire situation. But nonetheless, maybe Kenton just being super conservative here with his pace to leave Kevin a little bit more to work with. And again, you're going to factor in, you know, who's got the bigger advantage. We see a change of position here as Mackay Stevens has gotten around Jesbray. It's not for a class position, So it's going to allow Andy Lee now to go on the attack here. This is for position.
Correct. This is for third in Pro-Am. Jesbray in the white Supra with the teal trim. Just behind him, Andy Lee in the Flying Lizard Motorsports Aston Martin, the orange and black car, fighting for third in the Pro-Am class. Terry Borcheller, the third car in line, the TripAdvisor sponsored Toyota Supra. That car is in the Am class. That's the class leader, in fact, in Am.
Yeah, and they have a massive gap over the car, the second, which is the winners from yesterday, the 35 team with Conquest Racing. So great job by Borcheller building a big margin for his teammate at this stage of the game.
It'll be up to Nick Shanny to bring that car home. Tough position to be in, but Nick now with a year of experience. See how that plays out. Under 40 minutes to go. We're less than 5 minutes away from the pit window.
So we expect to see some of these drivers that are behind the wheel now staying in the car deep into that 10-minute pit stop window here today. So they could be another 10 to 12 minutes of action for them before they hand the reins over to their co-drivers. Plunge down the hill. Look at Terry Borcheller. They're just tucking the front end of that car. They have really got that car working well.
And Andy Lee will not want to do any favors for Terry Borcheller here, simply because he does not want to be split from the next car in his class.
Trying to work over Jesbray there, trying to tuck it to the inside. If you can be a little bit closer, you just kind of squirt the gas pedal there and unable to get into the inside before you make that second cut and turn into turn 7 to finish it off.
Love these S's. Great flow through that section of the track. Great rhythm portion of the track. Leads into this braking zone. Turn 9. Place to make a pass if you can. Or set yourself up for a lunge into the hairpin at turn 11. Get another NOLA Sport car, the 52 in the Am class, and problems on the front straightaway. That's Kai Van Berlo.
Wow.
The car that was running second overall has come to a halt on the front straightaway, and if he can't get that thing restarted, we're looking at another full course yellow just before the pit window, just like we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to delay that once again, and this is the last thing that Jason Hart wanted to see. It's the last thing that Terry Borcheller wanted to see when you've built a nice healthy lead.
That's right.
Just local right now. We haven't gone safety car yet. Wait with the communication with the team, with Kai Van Berlo, to see if he can get some life back in that Porsche. It's still sits stationary as we look at our TV booth window right now. So racing continues unabated, but they can't afford to wait much longer.
See the car out the window, and it looks like he is trying to reset the electronics on that car. The lights on and off, the Lumarank on and off. But so far, to no avail.
Look at this, Jesbray.
He's praying
Look how
for a
close
yellow.
it is. Andy Lee stuffs it down the outside. Borcheller thinks this may be opportunity. Can he tuck it in? Andy Lee's kind of out there. Could get hung out to dry here. What's Borcheller going to do with it?
And he was able to hang up on the flank in a safety
Jesbray
car. Safety car is out. Who was ahead?
Yeah, I've got a feeling that message may have been sent before Jesbray gave up.
And Kai Van Berlo just started rolling again. Just as the safety vehicles
position's
were
been given back there.
Okay. Just as the safety vehicles were deployed, he finally was able to get that thing restarted.
And that's why the stewards will wait.
Yep.
I mean, if the car's in a really, really dodgy spot, they'll go yellow immediately. But they felt putting that car in a local yellow situation, and they felt they'd waited long enough. And just as they pulled the trigger on the safety car, the car drives away.
It's always how it works, isn't it?
I know. It's like picking a line at the supermarket.
Big break
Not good at that.
for John Jesbray. He retains that position over Lee. Bad break for Jason Hart and NOLA Sport because their nearly 14-second lead just disappeared. And similarly for Conquest, right? Because Mackay Stevens was running up in second overall. His closest competitor in Am was Parker Thompson back in sixth. There was, what, 12 seconds or so between those two. at the time of the yellow.
Yeah, I think the good news for the NOLA Sport entry is that Travis is really a very strong driver. So when they put Matt in there and you look at the drivers who are going to be following him, he should be able to hold up his end of the bargain. So
that's true, but what it also does is when we go back to green and when the pit window opens, you had a margin for error if you had a bobble on your pit stop, if you had that big cushion. When we go and we restart, that cushion is gone, the margin for error is gone, and a little hiccup in the pits, that could cost you a spot, it could cost you a win.
Absolutely, and you could come in as a big stack. I'd be curious to see what NOLA Sport does.
Yeah.
So pit window will be delayed here a little bit, but then do they elect to keep Jason Hart out there a little bit so that you come in with a little bit clearer pit lane as well?
Just learned something from that shot of Matt Travis's helmet. It said Matt Rex Travis.
So you learned this.
His middle name is Rex. Yeah, we might start calling him T-Rex.
Yeah.
Travis Rex. I don't know, might not catch on. We'll think about it.
Matt T-Rex.
Yeah. World's fastest accountant has a nice ring to it.
I won't believe anything that those guys put on.
That's very
So
true. Yeah, at
probably has
our own
nothing
peril.
to do with his name.
I don't think he owns a Cougar either. So, that is how they run, with Jason Hart out in front in the car that he'll be turning over to Matt Rex Travis. Then Mackay Stevens for Conquest, and we're going to get a chance to see Jesse Webb again. He was worth the price of admission yesterday. So strong in his debut. Chesbray fought fiercely in that stint. I'm not entirely sure that car was to his liking. Didn't have the same pace as the overall leaders, but he did a really good job to keep Stevens at bay as long as he could. We go back green just like that here at Sonoma Raceway, and Jason Hart sprints ahead, lap car in between, and it's a NOLA Sport teammate running just in between. And right now, that definitely bottles everybody up at the top
Andy
of the
Lee
hill.
and Chesbray side by side there as he come off of turn 2. You're looking at the bright orange Aston Martin there, middle of the shot. He makes that move.
So a change in position for third in Pro-Am. Second in Pro-Am, excuse me. Oh, side by side, Conrad.
Oh, there was a touch, I think.
Oh, Povolato, oh, big spin and wall contact there. Is that Chesbray? It might have been. Pro-Am car, Supra, tails away.
That's
I
in a
think
bad
so.
spot. That is in a really bad spot.
Oh. Yeah, it is John. Boy, that is tough to see. He had a wonderful stint going. In fact, there could have been some contact there. Wow! Did you see how much opposite lock? Oh!
This is getting ugly, guys. And pit window just opened as well to add to the confusion.
So the problem, I think, Lee Carpentier in the NOLA Sport Porsche that was a lap down, caught in a really rough spot on that restart. Leaders forcing their way through.
There's some passing going on under here. Very yellow, so I'm not sure what that's all about.
Yeah, you're right. You can see in the stand just above the chicane.
Pit lane is going to get crazy.
Yes. And they're going to try to...
Now they're saying it's closed. So
Okay.
pit window was open, but I think
There
maybe
is a full
before,
course yellow.
Yeah,
Yep.
but there's some confusion going on here.
Okay. We're going to have to sort this one out.
I could see him closing it if Jason Hart didn't get back around in time. We're seeing drivers maybe.
Pit window is closed is the word from race control. So those that did dive for the pit lane, this will not count as their mandatory stop. They will have to come in again. So it looks like Random Vandals is caught out by this. It looks like the AM class car from Conquest, the winner yesterday, was caught out by this. There might have been one other in the pit lane as well. And this could be more than simply not quite sure about the rules here for Random Vandals. It looks like that team was looking for potential damage on that car.
Well, the transmission went out, the pit window was open, then we saw all the action with Jesbray's incident and the following incident as well, and they elected to close the pits a lane. So I think people may be locked in, we're going to come in, and maybe they didn't even get the second message, but either way, as I understand the rules, if they said pit lane is closed, you can come in. It does not even come in, but it does not serve the mandatory stop. You're going to have to come in again.
Correct. This is the contact, or at least the spin. Let's see what we can see. Like Thompson might have been in the mix there, and that car was in the pits. They were looking at the front of Parker Thompson's Supra. I wonder if you can put 2 and 2 together and get 4 there.
I think you're spot on.
There's the damage. That's the telltale sign that number 999 Supra. Just a little bit of contact at this. Well, looked like it was going to be a great save, but then a little contact there too.
Kenton right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Their day is suddenly going a bit sideways, literally.
That could have been a lot worse where that happened, right in the middle of the pack. Only 3 cars, I think, involved in that one. And after it all, we are behind the safety car again. Let's look at this one more time. It'll be at the
right
top
in the middle of the
shot.
screen. You see there the 50 and the 95. There's a puff of smoke, but up further ahead, you can see, I believe it's the white Supra there at Thompson.
Yep.
Just turns Jesbray on this restart lap with everyone so close together. What happens there, if you're nose to tail and as you swing across, if the car behind you has a little bit more momentum, it's just touching you at that critical point as you got some wheel in it, some steering input.
Wheel in it, and you're cresting a hill as well. The car's going to be light. Whatever the damage is, it appears to be terminal. Left front suspension, we hear, is the issue for Kenton Cook and Kevin Bohm. Had a good podium effort yesterday. Can't back it up in race 2.
Yeah, and they're a pair of drivers who you think are going to have a good consistent run and get a lot of points finishes, so that will really hurt them. And thinking about the clock here, they got 50% to get points.
Yes.
It's going to be tight.
But it's 50% of laps or time?
Just laps.
Yes, so the longer we go under yellow here in the second half, that would help them.
Yeah.
That is a class where even with a DNF, you could still score a couple of points, right? 9 entries, or that's a silver entry. Yeah, I think it's 9 entries. So yeah, you could get a couple points as long as you make it to the halfway mark. A lot to sort through, to say the least.
Just reiterating, once we went back to green, they were trying to say pit lane is now open next time around. Then we had the incidents and they elected to close it again. Amanda?
Finished for the 92 yesterday with Random Vandals Par Spotter. What can you tell us about the BMW? And I know that you're a little gloom about this weekend, but is there a positive spin on it?
Yeah, there is. I think the car is fantastic. I mean, we've had a much better experience at this track, particularly in the second sector. I mean, I think we could use a little more power, but you know, the car's been great. We can work with it, so it's just unfortunate we had both cars out, neither due to our fault today.
Did you name what the problem was with the BMW?
We got hit actually on the outside in the green car and the V-Brick car, and then the CrowdStrike car, they just spun in front of him. Kenton had nowhere to go. He avoided it, but had nowhere to go.
During that interview, I also saw Kevin Bohm walk behind us, headed back to the pits. What an opening weekend for Kevin, and we'll see you guys in New Orleans.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Tough weekend for the Random Vandals team. Again, we look here, you can see the damage at the front of Thompson, so that helps to explain the Jesbray situation. This is the lapped car of Carpentier, the 52, that restarted in the middle of the pack. And now Kenton Cook, clearly no room and just a little too much contact. Day done for both Random Vandals cars.
Yeah, I think it was Jaden Conroy aboard the 899 car
Yes,
there.
I believe you're right. That is tough for Lee Carpentier, who I think was in that second Nova Sport car. He restarted second in line. He had just been lapped before the previous full course yellow, so he restarts then in front of all of the leaders. Really difficult spot to be in because you know they're going to be aggressive trying to get by, and that aggression ultimately had some unfortunate outcomes that cost several cars a chance to continue racing today.
We'll reset here, and I think once they get all of the cars off the track, we'll try and go back reflag racing, and then that pit window will open again. But
yes,
hopefully we'll have a cleaner restart lap.
And the word from race control is that when the pit window does reopen, it will be open for 9 minutes and 3 seconds. So evidently there was 57 seconds that it was open prior to this full course yellow coming out. This is the worst case scenario for people trying to run this race, trying to deal with this pit window and work it around the safety car periods.
So it was open there for those 57 seconds, but no one was in a position to be able to use it.
Correct. So. Exactly right. The other thing that this does is we've now extended this opening stint into the second stint. So the second stint is going to be a lot shorter for the second drivers to get in. And I anticipate that could lead to some aggression, knowing you don't have much time to get the moves you want to make done. This is interesting too. This needs to be sorted through. Top right of the screen, you see the double yellows clearly displayed, and a few cars, certainly one, made up several positions.
Yeah, they'll be straightening that one up. That was pretty obvious.
We talked about it before, but there's a few different ways that the full course yellow can be communicated to the drivers. It can come from the flag stand, it can come over the radio, and I think there's also a light or something on the dash in the cars that can be triggered. And any one of those things is enough to constitute full course yellow. And that was very clear from the flag stand on the outside of turn 9, that those moves were not in the offing. The lights are off though on Toyota GR Supra safety car. Should see it make that dash to the left-hand side of the track down the pit lane. And that means a restart is imminent. There it goes. Jason Hart again leads this field. He's got Mackay Stevens directly behind him this time though. Andy Lee has been quick. Behind him, Terry Borchauer, the leader in the AM class. He has been fast. Then Matt Clark, Tyler McCory, and Carter Fartuck has worked his way up to 8th overall. Andrew Davis, Zach Anderson, that's your top 10. As Jason Hart enters the VP Racing acceleration zone, the green flag is out once again, and the pit lane will open the next time around.
Some real crossover here between the classes. A Pro-Am car that leads, Silver second, Pro-Am third, Am fourth, then another Silver entered car. Lots of different dynamics at play right now.
No question about it. And then how will the teams play this strategy? They could extend this opening driver's stint 10 minutes in, or 9 minutes, I guess, into the remaining time here, and that would really make for a short second stint for whoever happens to jump in.
You do run the risk, though, of another yellow during this full course yellow period, so that really would throw a cat amongst the pigeons. So you're in the danger zone a little bit if you like that strategy.
Zach Anderson, Auto Technic. He'll be turning that car over to John Capestro Dubets. Looked like he was looking to make a move around the outside of the carousel.
Message yet that the pit window, now the pit window just opened.
Okay.
So the pit window is open. So any of this field now can then take that opportunity to serve a legit pit stop. We did see some cars there when it did not count towards the mandatory pit stop.
So for our purposes, that was with just over 22 minutes to go. 9 minutes and 3 seconds is how much was left in it. So 13 minutes or thereabouts left on the clock is when that window will close. Maybe 13 minutes, 15 seconds, something like that.
How aggressive does anyone get here? Leader likes to stay out as we suspected. Mackay Stevens in. Jesse Webb going to be taken over in the Silver class leading entry.
Same thing for Anderson, who will be giving it to Capestro Dubets. Matt Clark comes in for Rob Ferriel. A bunch of those at the back of the field coming in, probably trying to cover themselves against a potential third full course yellow.
Some of these cars that stayed out, they're definitely rolling the dice here a little bit. They just want this track to stay pretty green. The good news, which should help that, is the majority of the field are on pit lane, so
Right.
not a ton of cars out there to get in trouble at this point in time.
Jason Hart has led from the drop of the green flag today. Here's the Conquest crew in the pits. Great opening stint from Mackay Stevens, able to race his way forward, and Jesse Webb, who was on pole yesterday.
See that seat insert coming out, so that's how the drivers, if they've got a different build, will adjust.
Jesse making that transition from Nissan Sentra Cup in Canada, also some stock car racing in Canada, into the GT4 ranks. And he was rapid yesterday. We'll see what he can do now that he is plugged in to the Conquest racing car. Paolo Karkoski hopping aboard. He and Custodio Toledo, they won in the AM class yesterday. This is not a surprise. They'll want the highly experienced Karkoski in that car for as many laps as possible.
See, Webb is away. Now you'd think for Andy Lee, they may want to keep Andy in the car. It's the number 8 car that is now running second on the road, second in Pro-Am. But again, you are running the risk if there should be another yellow. Safety car could jump out in front of you, kill all of the gap that you have, so let's see what happens here next go around.
More cars making the call to the pit lane, but not everyone.
No. I think I saw Jason Hart past the start-finish line. There
Yep.
he is. So
And
he stayed out.
Now, this is where this gets interesting because the leaders are catching the group that has just come out, and this is going to hurt their lap time. So you would think, all right, Jason Hart, he's the faster of the two between himself and Travis, but that might not be true when he's in traffic like this.
Yeah, because the problem is that essentially the pit stop delta of 92 seconds is pretty close to a lap time
Yep.
around here. So suddenly you're coming out there in the middle of the traffic, and that can really hurt this potential in-lap, or certainly for a lap or two, you're dicing it out here.
I mean, look at Andy Lee. He is totally balked here. Borcheller, same story, although I don't think there's much of a choice there for Karis Kallis. They'll keep Borcheller in as long as they can. Oh, contact there. Heart of Racing and Flying Lizard, couple of Aston teams. Lee really wants to find a way by if he can make it work, and I think he will. But this will certainly cost them lap time.
It will. I think you're right. I think maybe diving in on that last lap may have been the way to go to alleviate this scenario that's playing out.
Word from the pit lane at Amanda is that Jason Hart will be coming in this lap. I think they're seeing that too, but did they wait too long?
Well, the good news for them is that Andy Lee, is another Pro-Am car, did the same thing.
True.
He's got a little bit deeper into the pack to see if anyone's going to get an advantage of pitting a lap sooner.
Here he comes. Lee will stay out. Flying Lizard electing to go with a different strategy. Borcheller stays out, and we expect he will as long as he can. That is Paolo Karkoski effectively a lap down to the class leader. That car's already made the stop. The yellow stripe down the center of that Mercedes, the car that won an AM yesterday. We're going to be judging him relative to Borcheller, Shanning, and Karis Kallis.
Yeah, so I think it'll be Toledo behind the wheel now if they did make that pit stop. Lots to sort out here.
Yeah, and we won't know until everyone has made their stop. Hart pulling into his pit box as Webb continues to hustle around. Here comes Matt Travis.
Correct.
Takes the window net down. And he'll hop behind the wheel. And a little bit of help. And these two, they've done this together so many times. Even when they weren't here last year, they were still teammates. And all those years of rehearsal, they'll know exactly how this works. These pit stops, these driver changes. Noah Sport team, they can check tire pressures, bleed a little bit of air out of the tires if those pressures have gone up too high, but that's the only adjustment you can make. Here is the car that would be challenging the Noah Sport car for the overall lead. Jesse Webb, how quickly was he able to get up to pace? The Noah Sport car is released. Webb coming down, we're waiting to see him. There he is. I think Noah Sport is just gonna get the job done.
Yeah, Travis is in front, and it's not for a class position either, so we saw that yesterday, a little bit of an exchange there with the timing of their pit stops, with Jason Hart getting the advantage.
But again, not a battle for class position. NOLA Sport, the Pro-Am leaders. Conquest, the silver class leaders.
We're gonna have to wait for Andy Lee, who stays out still.
I found some clean track though. This could come back the way of that long first stint strategy.
Well, Thomas Blum is here this weekend with the Flying Lizard Group. He's one of the keenest and savviest strategists, so he'll certainly be evaluating the big picture of this and electing to keep Andy Lee out. Elias Sabo's certainly been very much on form here this weekend, so they're very confident in his abilities. But again, you do want to maximize that pro time if you can.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what Nick Shanny is doing, or not Nick Shanny, Terry Borcheller is doing. He leads overall, but still owes a pit stop. Same for Carter Fartuck, who runs in second. Think that the 50 would also still owe a stop. Powell as well as Stone. Maybe a couple of others.
Not much time left. I would think if you haven't been in yet, this would be the lap to do it. Otherwise, I think you might run afoul of that pit stop window. You only have to be on pit lane by the time of that 10-minute window running out.
That's correct.
After completed this service, this is going to get tight.
Yes, it is. 3 into 1, and yep, predictable finish. That's a heavy impact. You can see it's moved the barrier, and this is bad news for those that have not pitted yet. If they can't get to the pit lane before the safety car is deployed, and that was a heavy impact.
We haven't gone full course yellow yet, so pit window is open, and that allows Borcheller to dive in. That is our AM class leader.
That saves their race.
Wow.
Here comes Fartuck, here comes
I think this is what the stewards may be
Ovaledo.
doing, trying to control the scenario to allow
Safety
these
car
cars
is
to,
out.
Yeah. Look, going to be tight there, and if they were across the stripe there and broke the timing line to indicate they had committed to pit lane.
Yes, so let's look at it again.
36 car though just gets touched, just sends him. Not sure if Charlie Postins had got back in the car.
Yeah,
He
not
started
sure
the race
either.
yesterday, so he'd be the second driver if they'd done their stop, or whether it was James Clay still behind the wheel.
AM class champions a year ago, hardly ever finished off the podium, but this has not been a good weekend for them.
It's just a subtle touch, but a heavy impact, wasn't it, with that wall?
Yeah. Here's the Skip Barber team, Matt Forbush taking over for Carter Fartuck. Debut of this GT4 program for the Skip Barber School team. Did get confirmation that it is Charlie Postins in that car. Safety crew is there attending to him right now. Very affable driver. Looks like he is climbing out of the car. And that is the good news. Let's see, we saw this setting up, Calvin. You said it was going to be interesting, and 3 into 1, this is a tough spot to make this happen.
Yeah, I think the 36 car just drifts up towards the middle of the road just a little bit, but enough to get that so important clip there and turns him.
And the RS1 Porsche of Roland and Austin Crines, that was the other car, the Porsche Cayman that was involved. The Billy Johnson and Todd Coleman Aston Martin, that was the bright green car that was also involved in that. So those were the 3 cars that had a piece of that incident.
There's a lot to sort out here. It's a race steward's nightmare, to be honest with you.
Hope they don't have any flights to catch. This
my
could be a long
goodness.
debrief.
Keep you awake at night, thinking through
kidding.
all of the what-ifs here.
11.5 minutes to go. This race has been fascinating. Really good on-track action. Some yellows at some strange times that affect the pit window, and then right as the pit window was starting to close out, a few cars that had yet to make their stops, perhaps caught out by the timing of this safety car. Now, how that all shakes out, we'll do our best to determine. Pirelli GT4 America, though, always delivers the intrigue. Now the question becomes, now that we know that Charlie was out of the car under his own power, what happens with this cleanup? Presumably that barrier is going to have to be put back in the correct position to at least make it flush again. It's not an easy thing to do. That will have to be attended to in the next 10 minutes if we're going to get back to green. Plus, they have to clear the car.
For the timing and scoring to cycle through on this lap. I think we'll get a more better perspective on where everyone sits here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Was there a scenario that Borcheller could have been out far enough in front, the pace could have come down because of the yellow, that he could have taken his service and retained that track position? We know that that 20 car came to the pit lane, shown in second overall right now.
Yeah, I think this certainly is the scenario that could have played out.
The question mark I have is, did the 999 make it to pit lane? Hanley Motorsports with Daniel Hanley driving it. I don't remember.
I saw Borcheller in before we got indication on our screen that it had gone yellow, so I think he will be golden. There was one car I thought that wasn't up to the stripe
I agree.
of pit in by the time it went full course yellow, so there's going to be a lot to sort out here.
Right now the running order is Daniel Hanley. Whether or not he has made his pit stop, I cannot say with any degree of confidence. Borcheller, actually it would be now Shanny driving that car. They did make their stop. We believe they did so before the pits would have been closed. Povaledo, Forbush. Povaledo should now be Schwest. Forbush, Colin Harrison, the Tech Sport Racing Nissan. That's one I've got a question mark too, whether or not they made it in or not. Well, as the information is passed along to us, we will convey it to you. We are awaiting it just as eagerly, I assure you.
And I think as we look at the cars on the racetrack, the 999 has the track position. You see the number 20 car, the Karis Callum car with Nick Shanny now behind the wheel. That'll be the fourth car in line, our AM class leader.
Yep.
And there's a couple of lap cars between the silver overall leader, the 999, and the AM leader.
Okay, this answers our question. Did the 999 pit? It must have, because it was Parker Thompson. However, that happened before the pit window. So, yeah, they should still owe their official pit stop at this stage. I think that does sort that out. They were trying to go off strategy because they had the contact.
Yeah.
So that puts them then out of sequence with everyone else, but we think the rest of the order should be more or less set.
Well, they're in trouble
for,
big time because they haven't done their mandatory stop within the window, where the window will now be closed.
Correct. So
I believe there was a few seconds left.
Yeah.
But
so the only question I have now is that there were a couple that made the dive, but to your point, we saw full course yellow safety car issued before it looked like they would have tripped the timing line into the pit lane. So not sure if those stops would have counted for them now or not, and frankly not exactly sure who that applies to. Those are other things that need to be determined. So the car behind the 999 on track, that 253, and then also the green Aston from Archangel, those cars are a lap down, and we're trapped behind the overall leader by this safety car period. And I'm just going to say right now, I do not expect a restart is imminent, because Charlie Poston's car is still in position and is still being loaded onto the flatbed, and the wall is still at a jaunty angle. So we might see this race end behind the safety car, and then what do you do with the Handley car that still owes a pit stop? I don't know how that gets sorted back in line.
If they haven't served one during when the pit stop was actually open, where the stop was to suffice that, I don't think they've got a way out of this situation.
No, I agree. The only question is then how do they get scored, right? What is the time penalty? Because if we don't restart, I suspect that would be what it would have to be, a time penalty to compensate for the fact they didn't serve that official pit stop.
Big day potentially for the Schwest Povoledo Racing, number 50 there.
Yes. Yeah, Aaron Povoledo started it. Ross Schwest behind the wheel now. You're exactly right. Ross had a nice run this morning in GT America too. Just kept his nose clean. Came home at the front of the field. Not the very front, but certainly in contention. The back of this train, just behind the Schwest Povoledo car, then you have a Supra come through, but behind that is the new GT4 Nissan. A pair of them running this weekend, campaigned by Tech Sport Racing. Big contingent of Nissan execs and engineers here on site. 17, I think, something like that, to check this out. It's still early days for that car. I believe this is its first race in GT4 specification. Non-homologated version did run in Japan previously, but very exciting to see that program coming online this weekend. While we have some time under the yellow, let's go down and get the story on the 999 from Amanda.
Well, as we discussed just the different pitting, the 999 does feel like they are good. Hit that window, Parker, as we assess the situation. Walk us through the pit from your side and what the data is showing with you guys.
Yeah, bit of a crazy race at the start. There was cars that were fast, there were cars that were slow. Cycled to the front as it went, and then just tried to protect the car in the restart, but there was a big checkup going through turn 6. I feel really bad for the Smooge guys, but I mean, cars hit cars together. Everybody didn't really know what they were doing on the restart. My engineer, Jeff Fickley, made a great call. He said, pit window's open, get in. I didn't hear anything, so I dove to the pit lane, hit the pit limiter, and all of a sudden we cycled from 5th overall to 1st. And now Dan's just got to have a good restart here, and I think we're in a good spot to win at least our class.
Thank you, Parker.
Thank you.
Yeah, but on our message board it said pit open, but before anyone got back to pit lane, it closed again. So I still doubt whether they hit the pit lane when it was actually at a moment when it will count towards the mandatory stop. So pits were open. What he said is absolutely correct. His team said pit is open, but by the time he got to the pit lane, there was another message that went up before that was before Jason Hart, the leader, even got to pit entry, that it was closed again.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I saw it in real time as well. These teams are pretty bright, though, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They certainly feel like they're in a position to win this race.
Yeah, I mean, there were basically 51 seconds between the first and second message of pit window is open, then pit window is closed.
And here it is from race control. Post-race penalty, not fulfilling pit stop requirements for car 999. So that settles that debate, and it also tells us there is no intention of restarting this race. You can see the lights are still on. They're passing the incident scene. It has been cleaned up, but I do think this wall still needs to be addressed, and maybe you can't get the equipment that you need out there with the car still cycling. So I don't think they would have said post-race penalty unless the plan was just one more lap behind the safety car with under 2 minutes to go. Safety car stays out. All right, I think that settles it. So barring something totally unforeseen, Terry Borcheller, Nick Shanny.
I think anything you should say right now is unofficial.
True. That's a good point. So with that asterisk, we think Terry Borcheller, Nick Shanny, and the Carrascalis race team are due to win overall as an AM class competitor, and I don't think that has ever been done before.
that was just the timing. They
Yeah.
just snuck in before they went yellow. The big move, we believe, for the Povolato
Yep.
car.
Again, this is-
Povolato race number 50 should take the Pro-Am victory. And with the silver car of Hanley, we getting that penalty. It should bump the Conquest number 34 back up to the silver win as well.
Yes, that's how I would read that. So a sweep of the weekend for Mackay Stevens and Jesse Webb. How about that as a welcome to GT4 racing for Jesse? Stepping in for the first time this weekend and 2 wins. Perfect. Undefeated headed to the next round.
I think Amanda's got our interview about a dozen teams here just to make sure we cover the winner, the what-ifs.
That's true. That is true.
It's going to be a busy, long line, the race control after this one.
Yes. And I might be in it because I'm as curious as the next guy. This, we think, is the de facto overall leader of the race, Nick Shanny, who was brand new to this just last year. I met Nick at Watkins Glen in 2021, and he was making the rounds. At the time, I think he was coached by Patrick Gallagher. And I think Patrick introduced me to Nick.
That's right, he was.
And he was talking to different teams, trying to put something together. He had this big smile on his face, starting to realize at that time that this might be a possibility to go racing at this level. And last year was very much a learning year, but he has such a good resource at his disposal with a veteran, former 24 Hours of Daytona winner, Terry Borcheller, to lean on. And now, just like that, an overall win appears to be in the offing. And again, we stress appears because this will all be sorted out after the race. But
I don't think there's any doubt about this one, but again,
hey,
crazy day.
can't be too safe. Checkered flag waves. For sure, an AM class win, or as sure as we can be, for Nick Shanny, Terry Borcheller, and Karis Callis race team. The win in the Pro-Am ranks to Schwest Povolato Racing. Aaron Povolato there with the hat on. You can see him walking away. He'll be a happy guy. Ross Schwest, fellow owner of the team and co-driver. And in the silver class, Conquest Racing, Mackay Stevens, Jesse Webb for Eric Bachelard's team. Have a weekend to remember, and they have stamped their intentions clear on this silver class moving forward with a pair of victories to start off the campaign.
They haven't missed a beat.
Nope.
Just 3 really solid years if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you go back and first year of the program, it was a partial season, but Colin Mullen and Mackay Stevens, even in that partial season, they finished 3rd in points in the silver class. Then last year, it was Gavin Sanders alongside Mackay Stevens, finished 2nd in the silver class points, picked up a couple of wins, and now 2 more. So they matched their win total from last year in the first weekend.
Yeah. Well, certainly the RS1 team moving on has opened up the door a little bit.
No doubt.
Because Mackley and Filgueras were just such a strong force last year, but nonetheless, this Conquest Racing team led by Eric Bachelard, great racer himself, busy team. I think they run about 15 Ferrari Challenge cars
Right,
now. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, long-time IndyCar entrant Eric Bachelard went prototype racing for a time in the American Le Mans Series, and now pretty well established running GTs. Seen him around the paddock for a few years. They've got the Fanatec GT World Challenge America program powered by AWS this year too, with Manny Franco and Alessandro Balzan. You'll see them later on this afternoon. And then the Ferrari Challenge program, which is sweeping in its scale for sure.
I'll say one thing, we did talk about, you know, teams that elected to stay out and
Yeah.
the potential of another yellow, and I think it's really bit the 47 car that were dominating
Yes.
this race. If you think about it, as we see it on timing and scoring right now, we think they've dropped even off the podium down to 4th in class.
And it would be, again, if all of this holds, a podium for the Nissan Z GT4. Colin Harrison And Eric Powell, our third on timing and scoring, in a car that, look, they've been learning a lot this weekend. They don't expect the pace to be there immediately, but good job playing the strategy right, assuming everything holds, to get a podium and to finish 5th overall. Actually, it would be 4th overall after the penalty post-race to the 999 for not serving the pit stop. That's something they can take away and be very happy with heading to the next round.
I see smoke coming out of your ears. I'm not sure why.
Well, my brain hasn't worked this hard in a while, Calvin. It's been a long off season. And I was not expecting to have to crunch so many numbers, but we'll try and recover before our final race of the weekend. Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. In between is the second ever race for the Toyota GR Cup. Our buddies DJ and Joe will be in here to call the action. But fun race yesterday for the debut of that new series, which has so much promise. Part of this huge assembly of race cars this weekend at Sonoma. Nearly 140 across 5 different series have assembled here this weekend. And bigger grids are expected later in the year, as amazing as that to be believed. Unsurprisingly, there is still some discussion going on about the correct final finishing order and who we should be talking to as a race winner. So we will do our best to sort through that, or I should say race control will. And when that information is communicated, we can then head down and talk to some winners who I assume will be both happy and confused in equal measure, as are we. If this holds, again, I think this would be the first time an AM class car has won overall in Pirelli GT4 America. Could have been something we've seen before, but nothing particularly strikes me. Wow, we have some time. Let's look at highlights. Green flag. This is how the race started over an hour ago at this point, and it was Jason Hart, I should say.
Yeah.
Started on pole and consolidated his lead right away, but the fight was fierce behind him.
Yeah, Jesbray, a great start there, and moved that Toyota up to second. Kai van Berlo down to third. Moment here in turn 7, couple of Porsches getting together. Ken and Cook had a great battle going on. Look at this acceleration run coming off turn 11. Andy Lee to the inside. Kai Stevens threads the needle there. And Kent and Cook, unfortunately, involved in this one with the 2 Porsches in front of them. Their day would be done.
Big incident here, and this ended the race prematurely. Good to see Charlie Postitz walk away from that one. A couple of cars involved in that crash, but did bring out a full course yellow, lengthy cleanup. The wall was displaced and the checkered flag waved over the field. And someone won this race, and we'll find out who that is as soon as we can. Cars still parked in the pits, trying to figure out who needs to report to the podium, who reports to tech, who goes to Park Fermé, and who can just load it back up on the transporter and head down the road. That still needs to be determined. So the word from race control, this one would mesh with what we think. The 34, Conquest Racing, winner in the silver class. The 50, Suez Povolato Racing, as we anticipated, is the Pro-Am winner. And 20 won in the AM class. So that's, as we expected, Borcheller and Shanny. That also means they would win overall, because in order for those cars to be their respective winners, that would mean that that penalty is going to be enforced on the 999. Once that penalty is applied, that is the new running order, and that then should just about settle that. So that's going to do it for us here this weekend from Pirelli GT4 America at Sonoma Raceway. Thanks so much for joining us. For Amanda and Cal, I'm Ryan. So long for now.